Johnny, you know my parents don't want me out this late. You're gonna have to take me home soon.
I know, baby. I just wanted to take in this beautiful city. Look at these tall skyscrapers and all the lights. Isn't it beautiful, babe? Let's just stay here another few minutes.
Well, okay, as long as you promise to take me home real soon.
I knew you'd want to. Now, why don't you come over here and give me a smooch?
No, I really don't think that's such a good idea. Baby, there's someone staring into the window.
Hey, who are you? What do you want? Okay, let me just say, I'll put that video on Patreon for you guys. It's us doing half of the story we're doing tonight, the Son of Sam story. And if you can get through the complete drunkenness, and I'll put a photo of all the beer that was on the table.
It was a disaster.
It was a disaster. And
I had to be at work this morning at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And not only that, I decided I didn't think anything of this at all when we were doing this, but I poured some of my CBD, which is really strong extract CBD, like the best FDA approved everything that we get, poured it directly into my drink, which was heavy alcohol, and tell them what happened to me.
John had like a medical reaction to it.
Yeah, I'll put it on.
You felt like you were high.
Am I high?
Yeah.
I think I'm high.
I was fucking high. And I want to know if anyone else has ever had this reaction before. But so I took CBD out of the
and
thing,
you took
the
a
scooper,
lot.
the scooper, or whatever.
The dropper.
Yeah, I did about 3 times as much as I should have done out of the dropper. And then, you know how those glass bottles and you got the little squeezer, the eye drop squeezer, and you can't get at the bottom of it, the ring on the bottom, because you just can't, you know, it's not fully submerged. That was what happened. So I said, well, there's probably not much left. And so I dumped it into our drink, which was what, like gin and whiskey or something.
Who knows? There was a lot of things.
And that was after 4 or 5 beers. And then I didn't think anything of it until I started reading the Son of Sam letter, and I was analyzing it way more than I should have.
We couldn't get through that damn letter.
You guys were so drunk, and I'm just like, whoa, look at this letter. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I'm high. And I was like, did you guys give me something? I was really worried. I thought someone gave me something, or maybe.
What am I going to give you? We're married. I have no need to drug you.
But I looked it up this morning. I was really up there. So I smoked a lot before in my life, especially in the military and everything. And I've done a lot of other drugs.
How, like, that's what you say, but that's also not, like, no one would expect that to be your response.
So I know what it's like to be really high, and this was exactly what I felt. And, you know, like when you smoke, you can kind of tell the level you're going to hit. This just kept going up and up and up and up and up, and I didn't think I was ever going to come down. Anyway, I looked it up, and there's a few reasons that could have happened. Number one, it's alcohol and CBD mixed together has a thing called the entourage effect, where both of them amplify the effects of each other. Ooh. CBD is a sedative, and so we were drinking a lot. Right? We took so much drinks. So either I was extremely sedated, or the minimal amount of THC in the CBD was amplified by the alcohol. Or there's one other reason that it could have been. So when alcohol and CBD is also a blood thinner. Mm-hmm. So I could have had hypotension and that's extremely dangerous, because that's where your blood is you don't have blood pressure, basically. There's nothing, no constriction or whatever. And if that was the case, then that was my medical reaction to that being all high and stuff. But man, it was rough.
So we're back and we're doing Son of Sam.
Yes.
And we're very excited. It's like we didn't even hear the first part of this.
I honestly recall very minimal.
Anyway, we're going to do it again and do it right.
Let's do this.
So we're going to jump right into it. If you guys want to see that video, if you want to try to follow along, I do the half of the Son of Sam story, but we're all extremely intoxicated, and I'm on the Yellow Submarine. But you can go to Patreon, talkmurder.com/join to get that. And also, I apologize. This episode is going to be out a little late since we had to redo it. I'm not going to get to edit it until Tuesday, which means it's going to be out on Thursday. I apologize for any of the listeners. So I apologize for all the listeners who have a set schedule that they listen to this podcast on Tuesday. It's going to be out on Wednesday with the blog post. I apologize. This is going to be 1 or 2 parts right now. And next week, I'm going to do more of these episodes of the Son of Sam. I'm going to do a really deep dive in this story because it's extremely interesting. Not only that, Netflix tomorrow, which is Tuesday, either Tuesday or Wednesday, they're launching a documentary or maybe a miniseries called The Ultimate Evil. And it's a book written by, well, he's dead now, but a guy named Maury Terry. And it is the search for the sons of Sam. And I'm going to cover a little bit of that next week, but the premise of it is more of a conspiracy. Was there more than one son of Sam type of thing? Mm-hmm. We're just simply focusing this story on David Berkowitz in New York, the killings in New York. We're not going to go over if there's any conspiracy or whatever. We're just focusing on the story that happened in New York for this. So
got it.
Yeah,
cool.
And it's a fascinating story. I thought it would just be a normal serial killer story. But this is one of the most fascinating stories I have ever researched. And we've got 231 episodes out. So.
Yeah.
And a half episode where we're freaking completely hammered.
230.5.
So I guess we're going to get right into it. And I'm not drinking tonight, so this is going to be sober. Anyway, my name is John. Welcome to Talk Murder Me. I put all my sources, photos, and videos on talkmurder.com. So go to talkmurder.com. The blog post is The Son of Sam. It should be number 231. That's episode 231. You'll see a full story laid out there. I wrote those myself. Please share it if you find it interesting. And I put all my photos and stuff like that on that blog post. Also, we are recording this for you guys right now on video at youtube.com, and you can just type in Talk Murder to Me and look for episode 231. And that is what we're doing now. And
Perfect.
This is The Son of Sam Part 1, and I hope you guys enjoy. So this is The Son of Sam. If you guys don't know about The Son of Sam, it was a killer in the late 70s, 76 to 77. They also called him the 44 caliber killer because that was his choice of weapon. He has killed 6 and injured many more. And it was a hell of a time trying to find this guy. And not only that, but there was a huge panic in New York. And to give the cops a little bit of credit, New York at the time, I believe 9 million people. So to catch one guy going around and killing, and his MO, as I'll get into, is the lover's lane. So if you're making out with your new sweetie in the car, as soon as you put your arm around her and go in for the kiss, if you don't get slapped, you might get shot.
I feel like that was a somewhat common MO, especially back in the 70s. I feel like they don't have.
I remember we did at least one lover's lane killer before.
Yeah, I think we did. The Phantom Killer or something like that. Mm-hmm. But this is an extremely interesting story. When I first started researching it, I thought it would just be a regular story. And the premise being this guy, David Berkowitz, was using a big 44 caliber pistol, revolver, to shoot directly through the windows and kill his victims. And when he got arrested, he blamed it on his neighbor's dog or something like that. That's what everyone kind of realizes. However, that is not even a quarter of the story. This story is a lot about mental health too,
Interesting.
and why it's so important to be mentally healthy.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, tonight we are going to April 17th, 1977. It's a Sunday, wee hours in the morning, just like when all of these victims get shot. He does this at night, and who is out after the discos back then closed down at 2 a.m.? Who is parking in the car with the windows fogged? Obviously, some couples making out, and that's what he was targeting.
Okay.
All right, we're starting with the murder of Valentina Suriani and her boyfriend, Alexander Esau, E-S-A-U. He is 20 years old and she is 18 years old. They are a really good-looking couple. And if you want to describe for our audience kind of what they look like.
She is, well, you already said her age, but young, dark, cropped hair, short hair. He's got like almost like a fro.
A feather. It's
flow.
feathered.
It's a what?
Feathered, yeah. That's Jen's right. It's like at the Farrah Fawcett look.
The male Farrah Fawcett version.
It looks like a very professional photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can tell by their body language. I know, Jen, you mentioned that yesterday. The female there, Valentina Suriani, seems like she's in love with her boyfriend, Alexander, just because their body language, they're kind of leaning into each other. And I guess this is like a prom picture. It's not a prom picture, but you said
professional photo.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is the couple here, and this is where we're going to tonight. Her home is right up here, and we're actually going a block away from her house.
Where the Lover's Lane was? A block away?
Exactly. So this is 1873 Hutchinson River Parkway. And if we look at the Google Earth here, you can see that this is about where they were right here. So let's go down and look. Now, things have changed significantly, obviously, but at the time they were right here, parked. I believe they were even parked in these trees. It was kind of an isolated area. None of these houses were here, I don't believe.
You know what's interesting about parkways? That you drive your car on a parkway and you park your car in a driveway.
Interesting.
That is interesting. So right here around this house, as you see the photo right there at the top right of the Google Earth, you see it's the exact same photo. And you can see that. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're about right here. This is the crime scene. And actually, it's to the left of this. They don't actually have the crime scene on it, but you can tell this is the same place. So they were over here doing what all the other couples do that are in love. And even today, they're making out. Well, actually, not even making out. From what I read, he was a very polite boyfriend, and they haven't hooked up or anything. It was a puppy love. April 17th, 1977. It's a Sunday. The couple leaves Valentina's home, which is right here in the photo. You can see is that the furthest home up there. They leave around 9 p.m. telling her parents that they would be home around 3 a.m. They want to go out, maybe to the discos. Plus, she just got her driver's license, which is a huge thing. I thought it was kind of old to be getting a driver's license, right?
Well, back in the day, I don't know. It depends.
Licenses were younger then. However, if you're in the New York City area, it may not be as common for you to get
you don't
get
need
a car.
a license, right?
You just you walk, you take a cab.
I had a buddy
public transit.
I had a buddy from the UK, and he was 22, 23, never had a license, never needed one.
It's pretty common.
Could you imagine not having a driver's license down here, though?
God, no.
Everything
you can't.
everything is so far away.
I mean, I technically didn't have a driver's license for a while.
Yes,
That is true.
we recall.
I recall. That was never mind.
But we were really proud of you when you took the test with the lady.
Yeah, I had to take a driving permit test with a lady that was like 22.
You had to take a permit test, and then you had to take the driving test.
I'm like 33. And then I almost hit this dude on a bicycle.
Anyway.
Yet they still passed you.
Yeah. Anyway, So they get into her mom's 1968 Mercury Montego, and they're driving around. They actually go to Upper Manhattan. Now, do y'all know where that Manhattan is from the Bronx? Okay. They turned right onto the Cross Bronx Expressway. They continued east to the Hutchinson River Parkway. And the Hutchinson River, if you guys see here, this is the Hutchinson River Parkway. So it's a pretty big street that runs down here. So there were cars passing by, but I mean, they're on this other side of the barrier here.
Got it.
Yeah. So they drive down there and they get close to her house and they decide to just park and spend some time with each other. Now, 1 block away from her house, which was 1950 Hutchinson River Parkway where she lived, they parked across from where you're seeing now 1873 Hutchinson River Parkway. Since you guys know we're talking about the son of Sam, I'm just going to say David Berkowitz leaves his apartment, which we're going to get into, around 8:30 that night. So this is in his perspective. 8:30 that night, he's cruising around. He's looking to satisfy the voices in his head. The voices in his head, as we're going to get to in detail, they want one thing, and that is blood, human blood. For this night specifically, they were talking in a monosyllabic tone of voice, and they were just saying blood, 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 blood. And this is from David's own words from his interviews.
Okay.
That's creepy.
It's kind of like reminds me of red rum.
Yeah.
Bad rum.
Yeah.
3 a.m. Sunday, almost on the dot, 4 shots were fired through the Mercury Montego. Now, as I said before, Valentina, the female, is actually the driver, and then Alexander is the passenger. Now, this isn't his first kill by any means. We're actually starting towards the later ones. So, and we'll get into his MO, but he usually goes up to the passenger side because why?
The females are usually there.
The females are usually on the passenger side. However, it's 3 a.m., it's dark, there's really no illumination at night. You can't really see if it's a woman or man in, which side. You probably know it's both a girl and a boy,
right,
especially if the windows are kind of foggy and they're out at 3 a.m. in a parked car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You probably
not by yourself.
Exactly. So he walks up in a sports jacket, a very heavy sports jacket, and he pulls a gun from his waistband, and this is his signature gun. It is a .44 caliber Charter Arms Bulldog, which we're going to get into in a second. He lifts the gun up, he points it directly into the passenger side window, and he takes a semi-squat position. And if you're on YouTube, I'm going to kind of act this out just so you guys know it. And we're going to talk about the gun, but it's an extremely powerful gun. Okay, you think about like the different calibers. A 22, is tiny, and then it goes kind of up to like 50 calibers or whatever. So this is a .44 caliber. It's a pretty large slug. This is a it's not exactly the what's that guy's name? Are you feeling lucky, punk, or whatever?
Yeah,
it's one of those guns. He had the Magnum 45, so it's almost the same. But you remember the size of that thing?
Dirty Harry?
Dirty Harry, yeah. You remember the size of that pistol?
Yeah.
It was huge, and this is almost the same size. So he takes a semi-squat position. He takes his left hand, puts it over his right wrist, and that's for recoil effect, because if you just shoot it with one hand, you could actually break your hand.
Gun. You have to...
Yeah, exactly. So he's actually pushing down with his left hand on his right wrist as he holds the gun directly up to the window, probably about less than a foot away from the glass. And another reason he's putting his hand on his wrist is because if you shoot it without, it's going to recoil up. And he's trying to get all 5 shots if needed, because this revolver only holds 5. He's trying to get all 5 shots if needed out of the barrel and out of the chamber as quickly as possible in rapid succession. And at this point, he's already an expert in killing. He knows exactly where to aim, and that is the head.
Aren't you supposed to put your hand to the bottom, not above?
Well, that's for 9 mils and stuff like that, would not recoil. If you fire a big 44 like that, I mean, yeah, you can hold it like that for the recoil, but I mean, he's trying to push it down so he can boom, 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 boom. You know,
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a pretty big caliber. I'm not gonna lie. About the murder here, 2 shots each struck both Valentina and Alexander. Okay, so 4 out of 5. Valentina died almost instantly. She was shot in the neck. She died of blood loss, which is what a lot of the victims who get shot with this caliber die of. They die within the minute. There's just too much blood coming out, and that's how they die. Alexander died 2 hours later after being transported to Jacobi Hospital.
Alexander Esau, in the passenger seat, slumped toward the dashboard, comatose. Valentina slid slowly backward and was heard moaning. He raised the pistol again to fire a final shot, but suddenly noticed approaching automobile lights. The man was dead. The girl was probably dying. Better not linger, he thought.
He fired 4 shots. He hit Valentina once in the head. She died almost instantly of the blood loss.
Yeah.
He hit Alexander 3 times in the head.
Wow.
3 times in the head out of the 4 shots he shot.
Wow.
Exactly. So think about it. He thought that the female would be on the passenger side, right? Because that's where usually his killings, that's how it happens. They're in the passenger side. So you look at this, he shot Alexander 3 times in the head. Well, he's right up to him. You know what I'm saying? He probably doesn't even realize it's not a female
woman,
until he's almost out of bullets. And then he'll just shoot right over there and try to hit the driver, which in this case was a female.
Interesting. So he's shooting. That's crazy that he didn't die instantly.
It's crazy because he got shot. Alexander got shot 3 times in the head, and he died 2 hours later. However, Valentina was shot once in the head, and she died within the minute. So, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but do you want to guess why the shots aren't as powerful when he's shooting them?
Is it because he's not using the right size bullet?
No, he's using the right size bullet.
Oh, I don't know anything about guns, so.
He's actually firing through the window, and the window acts as a deflector. And in fact, a lot of the victims we're going to talk about, because different cars have different windows. And some cars, like your old grandma's Buick, I mean, those windows are like her glasses, right? I mean, you freaking... I mean, they're huge. So it's interesting to note that, especially kind of more expensive cars with bigger glass, there's less damage because the window is going to absorb some of that energy, even though glass is going to fly everywhere anyway, but it's still going to do something. But this guy, Alexander, was shot 3 times in the head, died 2 hours later.
Wow.
Now, when the detectives get to the scene, because they already know it's the .44 caliber killer, it took them a while to come to the realization that it was a serial killer, and the reason they did that was obviously the .44 caliber. It's an extremely rare gun. Okay, and I got the numbers here in a second, but let me tell you right now. Only 28,000 have ever been made.
Wow.
And out of those numbers, 667 were reported stolen or lost. Huh. So 28,000 guns were made.
Wow.
Compared to like a 9mm, a regular, or a Smith & Wesson revolver, or whatever, which has millions in productions.
Right.
This is a very a niche gun. So when the detectives get to the scene, and they get there pretty quick, because actually the detectives and thousands of law enforcement from all over have been doing stakeouts. And in fact, this murder in particular was 3 blocks away from the first murder that happened. And just like with all of these stories, they'll get the call, and what is called a code 44. They had a special code for them. So code 44 comes in, and then whoever's in the car, police or whatever, they say, damn, we were just there 5 minutes ago. I didn't see anyone. So they rush back there, and it's already been taken place. Like, they could never just catch this guy. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, they get there, and they have a task force, the Omega Task Force. One of the police officers finds a letter in an envelope that is directly on the ground. And it's kind of weird. And he was like, well, what is this? And he picked it up. Now, they couldn't get fingerprints of David's because it was compromised by a lot of other detectives. They didn't wear gloves. They're just like, oh, let me see this. Got my name on it type of thing. But we're going to read the letter tonight. I'm going to put it on talkmurder.com with all these other photos. Okay, so the book we're reading tonight, as I'll get into, is called The Son of Sam. It's the definitive guide to this killer. The author, which I'll talk about, was given complete access by the mayor of New York for any police files or any evidence that he needed to write this story. So it is the definitive book, and if you want to know everything about the story, this is the only one to read. Anyway, this is the letter right here, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. I got it printed out, so it's going to be a lot easier to read it. It is a 4-page letter. It was addressed to the captain of the Omega Task Force. His name was Captain Joseph Borelli. So on the envelope, it said, Dear Captain Joseph Borelli. So obviously that means David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, has been watching the news and has been reading the newspaper. And this is one of those stories where the killer talks to the news talks to the killer, even some certain journalist. They're talking back and forth, and he's talking by these letters. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. This is a 4-page letter.
Okay.
And this is where we stopped yesterday, guys.
Wow. We're flying through in comparison.
And this is right when I knew that I was not right. Something was wrong, because I was reading this letter. I'm like, whoa, this is trippy. I was like, whoa, wait, hold on. Why am I high? What the fuck?
Am I high?
I said that all last night. I was trying to...
I think I'm high.
Because, I was trying to get you guys to believe me.
We believed you.
I know, but I didn't believe myself. I was like, how is this possible?
So this letter was the one that they found at the scene.
At the scene, yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I'm starting with this story as compared to the other ones, because this is not the first murder, it's not the last, but I'm starting here because, as you'll see, this is where he brands himself. And in I mentioned this yesterday a little bit. It's interesting because in New York is, if you watch Mad Men, Madison Avenue, especially during this time period, the early 70s or whatever, it's all about marketing and branding. So David Berkowitz actually branded himself for the media, and it's really interesting that he did that. He's probably a brilliant marketer when it comes to that stuff. Anyway, this is what the letter says. I'm going to read it kind of suspensefully.
Okay.
Dear Captain Joseph Borelli, I am deeply hurt by you calling me a women hater. And women is spelled WEMON. I am not, but I am a monster. Now let me stop for a second. I'm not high, but why would he immediately come out and say he's not a women hater? Well, why do people think he's a women hater? Because
he kills a woman first.
Exactly, yeah. So the media, no, it wasn't the police, it was the media saying, oh, this guy maybe was sexually abused by his mother, or maybe his girlfriend broke up with him, or, his wife divorced him, or whatever. So he immediately starts out by saying that, which kind of means that really bugs him. And the fact that he misspells women to weemen,
It's weird.
Yeah.
But I am not a monster. I am the son of Sam. And so obviously when the media got this letter, now the headline's Son of Sam, which is a brandable name.
Yeah.
The monikers. Then it goes on and says,
Sounds like I wish I thought of that.
I am a little brat.
In quotations.
When Father Sam gets drunk, he gets mean. He beats his family. Sometimes he ties me up to the back of the house. Other time he locks me in the garage. Sam loves to drink blood. So, as we talked about earlier, sorry I'm interrupting again, but who was talking in his head to go kill tonight? Blood, blood, blood. Mm-hmm. So Sam loves to drink blood. Quote, go out and kill, end quote, commands Father Sam. Behind our house some rest, mostly young, raped and slaughtered. Their blood drained, just bones now. Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic too. I can't get out, but I look out the attic window and watch the world go by. I feel like an outsider. I am on a different wavelength than everybody else, programmed to kill.
It's interesting. Sorry to cut you off, but it's funny when you were talking about last night, you were analyzing the letter. Now that we know, I mean,
You were on a different wavelength last night.
but like we know that there's a lot of discussion about mental health in this case. And when you think about can you go back real quick? When he says, Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic too. I can't get out, but I look out the attic window and watch the world go by. That's like he's talking about his head. Papa Sam is right. He's the voices, right? Mm-hmm. And keeps me locked in the attic, his brain, and he's looking out the window, his eyes at the world going by. That's how I interpreted it.
That's a really good interpretation, but I'm telling you, and that's what most people would think. But the reason the story is so fascinating is because that is not what it means once we figure out who this guy was. It's a really good. No, it is deep, but the real reason is a lot deeper. We got to talk about who Sam is and what he's talking about looking out the attic out the window, because I'll get into it.
I know. Okay.
This is crazy. Anyway.
Okay.
Here I am thinking I cracked it. I was like, oh, I get it. It's like a
Nailed
mental.
it.
And this is me.
Wrong.
High yesterday. Oh man, did you see that? Wow. So fucking stoned.
Am I high? I think I'm high.
The letter goes on. However, to stop me, you must kill me. Attention, all police. Shoot me first. Shoot to kill, or else keep out of my way, or you will die. So he's asking the police right now to kill him. You know, I just want to say real quick, I'm sorry to interject again. If David Berkowitz was never caught, this would be a case like the Zodiac.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like, who wrote this? It's so weird, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like who wrote the Ramsey letter. Because we all know that the dad didn't write it. It was the mom.
Well, it was Patsy's handwriting. I mean, we all know it was Burke, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fine because we don't know, but we know.
Papa Sam is old now. He needs some blood to preserve his youth. And I'm going to get to this in a second, and this isn't part of the letter, but how old do you think Papa Sam is?
As old as David Berkowitz?
He is 6,000 years old.
Oh. That's like biblical.
That was a trick question.
Yeah, I know.
I just see like this old man with a long beard with a stick that beats him.
Papa Sam is old now. He needs some blood to preserve his youth. He has had too many heart attacks. And this is where we got stuck.
Oh, yeah.
It says, quote, ugh, me hoot. It hurts, sonny boy.
It hurts.
Yeah, that's what's, yeah.
It hurts.
I miss my pretty princess most of all. Remember that, pretty princess. That is extremely important.
Okay.
To the psychology. She's resting in Our Lady's house, but I'll see her soon. I am the monster, Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth. And obviously you guys the son of Sam, right? Have you seen a photo of him yet?
I think
I'll have to show him to you, but he's chubby.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the chubby face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
dark
chubby
hair.
Yeah. I love to hunt, prowling the streets looking for fair game, tasty meat. The women, and he spelled women wrong, of Queens. That's important. Why would he put Queens in there? I feel like the police should have been like, well, maybe this guy lives in Queens.
Well, I mean, because he's killing in the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
Or is he going to all different boroughs?
Different boroughs. And on the last victim, he actually crossed over to Brooklyn.
Okay.
Which apparently you don't do that because they were really pissed about that.
I'm sure everyone was pissed. I don't know.
The women of queens are prettiest of all. I must be the water they drink. I live for the hunt. My life, blood for Papa. Mr. Borelli, sir, this is the captain. I don't want to kill anymore. No, sir. No, but I must. Honor thy father. I want to make love to the world. I love people. I don't belong on earth. Return me to yahoos. To the people of Queens, I love you. And it's supposed to be I'm, but the letter M is crossed out. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to wish all of you a happy Easter. May God bless you in this life and in the next. And for now, I say goodbye and good night. Reminded me of good night, San Diego, or whatever. What was it?
You stay classy, San Diego.
Police, let me haunt you with these words. I know you want to do it. You want to do the I'll be back.
Yes. I'll be back.
I'll be back. I'll be back. To be interpreted as bang, bang, bank. Bang, dash, ugh. Yours in murder, Mr. Monster. So what do you guys think of that? Pretty crazy, eh?
Yeah.
When did the Terminator come out? Was that after? I'm serious. Like, was
no, that's a really good question.
Referencing this?
I think the Terminator was 80s. I'm pretty sure it was 80s.
I think it was.
But I'm not. Actually, let me look it up.
Yeah, you're right. It is the 80s.
I mean, I doubt. Well, maybe it was like a subconscious thing because this letter was extremely popular. Obviously, everyone in the world was talking about Son of Sam after this. So maybe the creator of Terminator,
is 78.
maybe,
yeah,
maybe the Terminator creator had that in his mind, type of thing. Yeah,
fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
A bizarro letter.
Yeah, and like I said, if he was never caught, then we'd be studying that thing today. So anyway, let's move on. All right, so who you're looking at now is the sketch. This is the Omega Task Force presenting a press conference at the time.
Isn't that very different from what he looks like?
Oh, yeah. There's a ton of sketches, and none of them come close. Huh. In fact, in the book that you're going to be reading a little bit of, the author talks about how the police, none of the police give any credence to these sketch artists, you know. I mean, it helps sometimes, but the problem is now people are only looking for this guy, and if it's not even close, then, you know, you're actually hurting the investigation, you know what I'm saying? More than you're helping it. Going back to the Alexander and Valentina murder, I want to say real quick, when David runs away from the car, because he only shot, as you read, he said, quote, the girl, and this is his quotes, you know, the girl was probably dying. You know, that's what he said. So,
and he thought the man was dead for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So how does he know? Because he knows for sure that the girl ended up dying. And how do you think he would know? You're not going to get it. I'm just going to tell you. The way he knows that, because he's got to get out of there. These cops are going to be there in 5 minutes. And he's parked right down the street. So he knows when he's running back to his car that he succeeded in his mission because the demons, from what he claims, in his head are quiet. Finally, he gets some peace in his head. Even though the peace doesn't last long, at least he can sleep tonight because they're not bothering him. Okay, I just wanted to tell you that.
Okay. Got it.
This right here, what you're looking at, is the Charter Arms 44 caliber revolver, and this is a very recognizable gun. And you can't really see what it looks like here, but this is the exact gun. So if you want to describe that, number one, tell me how many bullets are laying beside it.
5.
So it's a 5-shooter,
yes.
which is odd. You know, most revolvers are 6. They got 6 slots in the chamber. This is a stubby pistol. It's real fat, and I think it looks beautiful. Actually, this is like what I would probably use, like for home defense. And well, in fact, this is a home defense weapon. This is not, you don't kill wild game with this thing. You kill people with this thing. There's no other reason for it. It's a home defense. Someone breaks in, this is what you shoot them with. But I'm going to talk a little bit about the Charter Arms now. This is the Charter Arms Bulldog. His was actually a 1974 model. And he got the weapon from his friend, his old Army friend, because David Berkowitz was in the Army, which we'll get to. And he bought it down in Texas, because in New York, you can't hardly buy any guns. They have the strictest laws, even though he went back to New York and bought all kinds of rifles, even one called the Deer Slayer. It's like,
Yikes.
What the fuck?
It's like that one episode we did, the incinerator.
Yeah.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah. With Dylan Millard.
Yeah.
This is a people gun, not a sporting gun. The Charter Arms is a company in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Only 28,000 of these were made. Out of those, 667, which I feel like it was 666, but they just upped it, so it's not.
It would be fitting with this story.
Yeah. 667 were reported lost or stolen. Now, this is from charterfirearms.com. They still are a company. I do not think they make the Bulldog anymore. You can still buy these, and a lot of people, gun collectors, will try to recreate the Son of Sam gun. And there's a video I put on Talk Murder. This guy, she's a hobbyist. He gets the correct stock, the correct handles, everything. He even like trims the trigger just to look like exactly like the one that the Son of Sam was using. From charterfirearms.com, it says, quote, "The Bulldog is a powerful but compact revolver. The Bulldog is ideal for concealed carry and target practice. It's ergonomic." Well, that's the word they use today.
Yeah.
Like your chair. It's ergonomic. Finger grooved rubber grip minimizes recoil for maximum comfort and control. Now is a bit, so there's a lot of recoil. It's not minimizing it that much. While the potent 44 Special chambering delivers almost twice as much muzzle energy on target as the less powerful 38 Special. So they're competing with Smith & Wesson's 38 Special. David Berkowitz also purchased a variety of other weapons. However, when he was doing his first kill, he was thinking about which one to bring, and he just by happenstance decided to bring the 44, which, to his delight, branded him as the 44 killer and then the Son of Sam. So that became his thing. So now he's not going to bring a rifle because he wants the public attention, right?
He wants them to be tied to him.
Yeah, he doesn't want to shoot someone a rifle and be like, well, that's not him. It's not a 44 caliber.
Yeah.
He also purchased other rifles to shoot, as we'll get into, demon dogs. Kind of like the one we got in the sunroom.
Oh my God, stop.
He shoots demon dogs. We got three of them in his house.
Does he actually shoot dogs?
Yeah, he shoots dogs. He kills one in the story. He puts a bullet in the other one, but the bullet, it was stuck there for the rest of his life. He survived, and one of them he tried to blow up with a Molotov cocktail.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's got some problems. But he also buys a Charter Arms AR-7 Explorer, a rifle, a Commando Mark III rifle, and a 12-gauge Deer Slayer, and a Glenfield rifle. So he's got a whole arsenal. However, he only uses that one. In fact, it's weird because, as you'll see, as he continues to murder people, he's actually conserving his ammunition because the 44.
You can't go buy this.
You can't go buy 44 caliber bullets. They just don't make enough of them. It's such a weird caliber. You know what I'm saying? So he's actually conserving his ammo, which is why he's shooting in the head and really trying to hit the head type of thing. So this is the Son of Sam, David Berkowitz. Very chubby face. And what do you notice about this photo? This is a black and white photo. He's obviously arrested. He's
happy.
Arms. He's smiling.
Yeah.
He's smiling. In fact, when they arrested him, they didn't think he was the right guy. But
because he looks nothing like the sketches.
But he acted like a 12-year-old kid, smiling and everything else, not really all there. Honestly, he would have been completely let off the hook if he didn't admit to all these killings, because they honestly didn't have any real evidence that he did it. And I'll get to that. But he is smiling there, and when he is arrested, he says, "Hey, I'm Sam. I'm Dave. I'm David Berkowitz. I'm the son of Sam," type of thing. And he's smiling, like with a smile on his face. It's very childlike.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this is him. He's always smiling. He's always smiling. And right quick, we're reading from The Son of Sam, based on the authorized transcription of the tapes, official documents, and diaries of David Berkowitz. Now, this is by Lawrence Day Klausner. Like I said earlier, he was actually given complete access to all the police files and everything else to write this story by the mayor of the city. The mayor wanted the correct story to be put out, and he entrusted this guy to do it. That's never happened before. Usually writers, the true crime writers, they have to kind of buddy up to the police, and they might get, a nugget here, a nugget there. And the really good writers like Ann Rule, they're really, really respected within the law enforcement, so they get even more. And you can tell. But this guy has access to everything, everybody that was on the case, every document he needed. So it's a really definitive, good book. It's really good.
It's almost like Capote, how he was he was like talking to the guy in the cell and put out that story.
So guys, for this story, The Son of Sam, I'm going to expand on this, and guys, stick with me, listeners out there. I'm going to put you through hell with this story, but I want to get everything down pat. And for our Patreon, we're actually going to be doing a special story for you guys. I'm not going to cover on iTunes, but it's based on David Berkowitz, and that's coming from a book written by Roxanne Torriello. She was a talk show host. And this book is called Change Can Happen for You, From Son of Sam to Son of Hope. So David Berkowitz is still alive.
Really?
He's serving 6 life sentences, but he has transformed into a devout Christian, and apparently he is completely changed.
Interesting.
And he hates the moniker Son of Sam. And he likes to be called, well, I don't know if he likes to be called Son of Hope or not, but this is a religious book. Obviously, it's pushing a religious agenda, not in a bad way, but I mean, just by the nature of it, it's a Christian woman saying that even David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, can find hope. So we're going to be doing that one for you Patreon people this month. I'm also going to do another story for you guys too. I'm trying to do 2 a month. The next one that we're going to do next week for everyone is something that just came out 2 weeks ago. And this is about the conspiracy, part of the conspiracy, I believe. It's called The Son of Sam and Me.
Oh.
The Son of Sam and Me. The Truth About Why I Wasn't Shot by David Berkowitz.
Oh.
By Carl De Niro. And he was one of the victims, if you will. He wasn't shot, but with Brian Whitney. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to go over that too. Like I said, this is a fascinating case, and I just can't just,
So we're going to do another episode based on that book too?
Yeah. So sorry to regress again, but The Ultimate Evil is coming out this week, and it's conspiracy based. There's a huge conspiracy on this, and I want to cover mostly David Berkowitz, but I do want to hint on the conspiracy aspect too, because you guys are going to watch the Netflix thing, and not
until you tell us we can.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying, anyway. So anyway, look forward to that.
Jen's like, I won't make that mistake again.
Nope. I still haven't watched the Anaconda thing.
What Anaconda thing?
The serpent.
Oh.
No one's wanting me to do that story. What the hell? It's like one of my favorite stories, and maybe I didn't cover it right. I don't know. The book was also like 600 fucking pages, so I'm not like too excited about revisiting that story. So, all right, let's talk about David's background. Tell me about his background. Take a guess. Was he abused or what?
I'm going to say yes.
Was he Jewish?
Yeah, he was Jewish. Well, obviously, Berkowitz. You were supposed to know that. Berkowitz is
it
actually
doesn't have to be.
Actually, Berkowitz isn't his real name, so you shouldn't have known that. But Berkowitz is a Jewish name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
Traditionally.
it doesn't have to be Jewish though. It could be like Polish.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in Queens, where David grew up, in Queens where David grew up, and I've never been, but especially in the 70s, it's like a culture pot there. There's a lot of mosques there now, from what I've seen on Google Earth, and a lot of Hasidic Jews there as well. So, and a lot of Italians, stinking up the place. Shit, I'm just kidding. All right, we're going to where David Berkowitz was born. This is 555 Prospect Place. It is a blank hospital, Jewish hospital, very good. I don't know if it's still a Jewish hospital, but this is where he was born. And for you people on YouTube and podcasts, we're actually going through and looking at the Google Earth now, so be sure to go there. This is a photo of David when he was a youngin. David Berkowitz, born Richard David Falco, Falco. His mother, Betty, was abandoned suddenly by her Italian-American husband, Anthony Falco. And why do you think he left her? Because she got pregnant. And he was like, well, this ain't going to work if you're pregnant, even though it's his kid. Like, what the fuck?
Sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. David's mother, Betty, so his actual mother, okay, and not his father. He's got a different father. Keep that in mind.
Okay.
So, but his mother was married to an Italian husband, Anthony Falco.
Okay.
They split up way before David was born.
Okay.
Years before he was born. The mother, Betty, was from Poland and Austria. So that's his biological mother. He's got Polish and Austrian in him.
Okay.
Gotcha. Her husband, Tony, was from Italy, obviously, but that's not his biological father. Am I confusing you all?
No, just keep going.
Betty was also Jewish. Austria and Poland, she's Jewish. Okay, so David Berkowitz, born Falco, is Jewish.
Okay.
He was bar mitzvahed and everything. David's sister, Rosalind Falco, which he never really met because this was way before he came along. Rosalind Falco was born November 14th, 1939. The husband, which was not David's biological father, left within a year after Rosalind was born.
Okay.
For another woman who, from the book, says, quote, wasn't pregnant, end quote.
Okay.
The mother, Betty, David's mother, owned Falco's fish market, but that went bust pretty quick. Then she goes through her divorce and goes through 8 years of what she calls, quote, 8 years of loneliness, end quote. She met a man named Joseph Kleinman, a Long Island businessman with 3 of his own kids. She got pregnant with David Berkowitz, with what would be David Berkowitz by this guy, Joseph Kleinman, his actual father, a Long Island businessman. She got pregnant and he didn't like that, so he left.
Okay.
He said to her, quote, this is an actual quote, "Look, you're pregnant, not me. I want to keep seeing you, but I'll be damned if I ever pay a cent for the child support," end quote. She protested, saying, well, it is your kid inside of me.
Yes.
He says, quote, "If you want to keep seeing me, you'll give the kid away," end quote. David was fostered out. So David didn't know he was adopted until he was 8 years old. But luckily, he was put in the care of a very loving family. However, there were some tragic happenings within that family that caused them to break up, which I'm going to go over now. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the study that I'm seeing from, what is this? Some college, Radford University Department of Psychology in Radford, Virginia. Now, the reason I'm saying I'm sort of kind of going through this is because I didn't actually see any of this in the book, but I thought it was interesting. And that is the fact that in 1960, when David was 7 years old, he was hit by a car and suffered head injuries. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because a lot of serial killers have head injuries when they're young. Jen. Or concussions. Literally a way skewed amount of killers we've covered have had traumatic head injuries when they were kids. Like, there's something going on there. Okay. For sure. Okay, go watch Concussion, that movie with Will Smith.
I still haven't seen that movie.
It's good.
Okay, so he was hit by a car, suffered head injuries. A few months later, he ran into a wall and suffered another head injury. He also, at the age of 8, was hit in the head with a pipe.
Whoa.
And received a 4-inch gash in the forehead. And he also, this is about the time he begins to masturbate, which was coincidentally right after he saw a little girl being killed by a car in a car accident.
Oh, boy.
In front of his eyes. So that information is from the psychology department at Radford.
Interesting.
I didn't see that in the book, but maybe they just didn't think to mention it. Anyway.
It's an interesting tidbit, though.
Yeah. David was adopted, and he, as a child, claims that he saw monsters until 13. I've never seen, like, when I was a kid, like, I know we watched movies where they have an imaginary friend or whatever. Maybe it's because I had a brother. I never had an imaginary friend. I never saw monsters. Did y'all? Okay, he actually saw monsters. And in fact, is extremely interesting because these same monsters leave when he's 13, but then they come back as the demons.
Oh,
it's the same monsters turn into the demons when he's older.
Interesting.
And he claims it's the same demons.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. At 10 years old, he was bitten
by a dog?
By a German Shepherd. You know, because there's
interesting
all over the place, right?
They are great dogs, okay? Murphy is the sweetest dog.
Yeah, he tries to hump my little puppy.
That didn't happen.
All right. This is where he went to high school. High school 123. That's the name of the high school.
Wow. It's easy. It's easy.
Okay. And let's talk about his adoptive parents.
Is there still a school there today?
Yeah, it actually is a school. It's not High School 123, though, that's there today. It's another different school. That's a good question. High School 123 moved down the road. But it is a school.
4, 5, 6 now?
They do weird things in New York, man. I don't know. So David was sent to live with adoptive parents. He was sent to foster his adoptive mother, Pearl Berkowitz, and Nat Berkowitz. Extremely caring, loving couple that dedicated their life to raising David. One of the reasons he was picked on as a child is because he was like the only kid in class without a sister or brother. Even though he has a biological one, he didn't know it.
Right.
But so they were just focused on raising him, and they sent him to the best of everything. Okay. However, things went downhill when Pearl Berkowitz died of breast cancer on October 5th, 1967.
Oh, no.
That left Nat, his adoptive father, in dire straits. And at the funeral, one acquaintance of David Berkowitz says, quote, he cried really hard at the funeral. I mean, he was really crying, end quote. He was destroyed that his adoptive mother, Pearl, died of breast cancer.
Yeah.
After her death, his grades plummeted. Now, he'll say he was an A student. Here's the thing about the psychology of David Berkowitz. He thinks of himself as better than he is. He wasn't an A+ student. He was a low B student. But he claimed, because there's extensive interviews that he's given, and he says, when Pearl died, my grades went from A+ to down to C's and D's. You know, in reality, they were B's, and now, I mean, they did go down, but, you know, okay, sorry.
He's making himself out better than he was.
Yeah, exactly. After the adoptive mother died, they moved here. 170 Dressier Loop. So this, as you can see right now, is a big apartment building. And the mother is dead, so they move here. Now, one thing about David Berkowitz, even when he's committing these killings, he is very nostalgic. He always goes by the apartment. He always revisits his childhood. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is the apartment right here he was living in. Mm-hmm. At 13, the monsters leave that he sees, and at 14, Pearl dies. So he is just now getting rid of these monsters. They're finally gone from out of his closet, and he has peace for the first time in his life, and then Pearl dies. So the monsters are gone. Now, Pearl dies, they come back. So in his head, he is associating, oh, I know why they left. They left to kill my mother, to give her breast cancer. And now that she's dead, guess what? They're back. But now they're demons. Okay. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Like to a mentally deranged person like David Berkowitz, because he wasn't just lying about demon dogs and everything else. He was living it. This dude he has some mental issues that were never solved until he was in prison.
Got it.
Very complicated mental issues.
Right.
Extremely, like, would have been released Vince Lee type of issues, if it wasn't such a public outrage to have him be released. He would have been released.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He always thought that there was a, quote, force, end quote, that kept people away from him. After Pearl died, they move into what you see now, 170 Dressier Loop. And then suddenly in December of 1975, the father's store, his convenience store, was robbed at gunpoint. And so he just lost his wife. Now he almost lost his own life, and he decides to just move. And he goes to Florida. He sells a store and he books it to Florida. But he leaves David there.
With
New
who?
York.
Well, David's 18 now.
Wow.
But like I said, that was his last support string. The father, they knew he was growing up with these mental issues and stuff like that. So just to leave him, but the father is so distraught over his wife suddenly dying, because she had beat breast cancer once, but then it just came back, boom, killed her quickly. So he just completely moves down there. David is now all by himself in an apartment in New York, and he is completely antisocial and in his own head. This is a letter a little bit before the killings that David has written to his father. And this is before the killings.
Dear Dad, it's cold and gloomy here in New York, but that's okay because the weather fits my mood gloomy. Dad, the world is getting dark now. I can feel it more and more. The people, they are developing a hatred for me. You wouldn't believe how much some people hate me. Many of them want to kill me. I don't even know these people, but they still hate me. Most of them are young. I walk down the street and they spit and kick at me. The girls call me ugly and they bother me the most. The guys just laugh. Anyhow, things will soon change for the better.
Very ominous, because after he writes this, he basically goes on the killing rampage.
Right.
Okay. That lasted about a year. All right. So David actually enrolled in the Army, and he did his training at Fort Dix. This is a photo of him up here. He looks pretty normal.
Yeah.
I would think, at least.
Where is Fort Dix? Is that in New York?
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he attends Bronx Community College, but he didn't do very well. So he enlisted in the U.S. Army from June 23rd, 1971 to June 24th, 1974, which is 3 years. He qualified as a sharpshooter with the M16 rifle and basic training, which is what I am, sharpshooter. So
I'm not sure making that connection, though, sounded positive.
Okay,
You're
so-
like, I'm also the same as David Berkowitz.
I am. So a sharpshooter is, if I remember correctly, there's 40 targets that you got to hit between like 50 yards and 300 yards with an M16 rifle. There's 40, and they pop up and there's little silhouettes, tiny silhouettes. They come, there are all these little hills, and then a silhouette pops up 50 yards away, and you got to shoot it, or whatever. 100 yards away, you got to shoot it.
And so you have to get all of them to be considered a
If you get all of them, 40 out of 40, you're a Hawkeye.
Oh.
However, the sharpshooter is 36 out of 40. So he got at least 36, or like me, 38 out of 40. And now he's a sharpshooter. So there's not many Hawkeyes that came out there. But that's really actually really hard to do because I mean
I believe it.
You know, one pops up over here to your right,
like
and then
whack-a-mole, but
it only lasts for 3 seconds, so you gotta actually readjust. And there's no like in the movies where you see the dot over the thing. These are iron sights, so it's just like it's actually pretty intense to do. He actually served in Fort Knox, guarding all Nicole's gold.
Yep.
And South Korea.
Wow.
He was actually at the DMZ.
Whoa.
Yeah, he was at the DMZ.
That would be like fascinating to see. I would actually love to go see the DMZ.
What? Just like literally just a line.
Take a walk.
And a wall.
I'm in North Korea, now I'm in South Korea, now I'm in North Korea, now I'm in South Korea.
Isn't that what Trump did? It was
Throw
like,
a stone. Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm here. And his aides are like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
So let me talk a little bit about his army life, because it's kind of crazy. He didn't fit in with the hippie crowd that was going on at the time, which is why he says he joined the army. I think it was just because he couldn't do college and he had nothing else to do. David Berkowitz says, quote, I sort of lived like behind the times. I wanted to see some action, prove something to myself. It was rebellion then against parents, country, and stuff. Kids were
and
hippies.
Stuff.
Yeah, he's very childish, as you can see. Kids were hippies and into drugs. I guess then I was very patriotic, which he did want to be a fireman and policeman, but, you know, I think he bolsters himself. Anyway, nobody else except a couple people here were, end quote. He was deployed with the infantry to South Korea, stationed in the DMZ over the, was it Incan River? I don't know. He was actually demoted once for going AWOL. Ooh. You know, he claims that during his stay in South Korea, his buddies and him were into heavy drugs like heroin, acid, and mescaline, and CBD mixed with heavy alcohol.
Isn't mescaline lettuce? Mescaline is a type of lettuce.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. I know this because when I go to Verde, it's mescaline that I order.
Well, did I write that wrong?
I think you wrote something in it, auto-corrected it to mescaline.
People are like, he ate a lot of lettuce?
He's eating some leafy greens.
Can we fact check this? What is mescaline?
I know mescaline is lettuce.
This fucking computer, man, this computer just changes shit.
Yeah, it's mescaline is
on purpose.
Leafy greens. It's a spring mix.
David Berkowitz claims that while he was in Korea, he partook in all these drugs, but no one believed him. He also said he was having sex with a lot of Korean prostitutes. Experts to this day believe he's still a virgin.
Interesting.
You know, which is not a bad thing, but
it's interesting that he's saying, though, that he's...
There you go. So it's part of his psychology. He's bolstering himself up.
He is fabricating a lot of things.
Yeah. But it's more out of a sense of insecurity. He wants to fit in. And that's why it's like a 12-year-old kid. That's what I'm trying to say. When they caught him, they were like, what the fuck? Like, do you really do this? He's like bragging like a 12-year-old would. I had sex with a lot of women over there. Experts still believe he's a virgin. Even to this day, he's still alive. But he said there was a Korean prostitute named Miss Chet. And she was an older lady. And his friends were making fun of him because, she's like 65, 70, being real nice to David. She did give him something that lasted a while, though.
Chlamydia?
Gonorrhea. But this is how you know.
So was he?
You can get gonorrhea from doing handsy stuff.
John's like, I know, because I was also in the army, just like David Berkowitz.
But you could also get crabs from like the toilet seats.
Oh God, that's just what people say that shit.
It's true. They jump.
Okay, this is how we know that he's still a virgin. He claims once with Miss Chet, he even, quote, achieved penetration, end quote. Oh. But that's how, have you seen the 40-year-old virgin? It feels like a lamp. And it's like, wait, you never had sex before. Like, what, boobs feel like a lamp? That's the same kind of shit. Like, you would say, oh, I achieved penetration. No one's going to be like, yo, I just achieved penetration, dude. What's up? Like, what? You achieved penetration? What the fuck? Basically, here's the story. He works at a place called IBI. It is a security company. He works for this loading dock security company. He also works as a taxi driver, which helps him out knowing the streets, but he only works there for a month. He's also, when he was caught killing, when he finally got caught, he was employed by the United States Postal Service. Yeah, he was a post worker.
Wow.
So,
Newman.
Newman. That was the greatest show. Kramer fucking ruined it. His racist ass.
Yeah, that
All
was
right.
pretty bad.
He even works as an AC installer for a company called Wolf and Munier. It's like a law firm or something like that. And once a coworker there, Jack Villieto, says about David, quote, he was quiet and a loner. He was just a body and a plant, not much of a worker. He didn't do good with tools. He was just sometimes depressed and would break out into tears, end quote. So it's a little bit about his education and employment history. I have a whole tab on his psychosis, which we're probably not going to get to today. In this episode, there's a lot to it. But anyway, here's what goes on with David. His dad moves out. He's out of the army 3 years. Now he's living in New York. He's all alone. He can't make friends. He can't even hold a job down. He's in this really little apartment. There's writing all over the wall because he's scribbling and everything, and he's shut himself in. He's put blankets over his window, no sunlight, just completely in his mind.
Yikes.
He actually takes a month off from his job, and no one calls, no one checks on him, nothing else. And he's just sitting there in his room by himself, no TV, like nothing. He's in psychosis.
Like an agoraphobia.
Yeah, he has a prolonged psychotic episode. Now, he did know he was killing, but when you kill someone to silence the demons, that we need to like think about, okay, where does the guilt lie here? You know what I'm saying? Which is why I really want to read this book about him. Because once he did get help, and when he was in prison, he's like, prison's fine, but I really wish someone would just help me. Someone help me, like mental help, like crying out. Like he finally did get the help he needed. I'm not sticking up for him by any means. He killed 6 people and it was awful. But you know what I'm saying? Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the first victims before the shootings. So David walks out with a large hunting knife and he's going to go stab a victim. Now, we don't know who the first victim was at all. It was a Hispanic lady from what he claims. We don't think, or the detectives don't even think she was registered or whatever, because she didn't even go to the hospital. She didn't die or anything, but basically this is what happened. The demons were inside his head. They told him he has to sacrifice somebody and, quote, drink her blood, end quote. He goes up to a random woman who was walking in front of him with a big coat on because he's in New York and it is wintertime, and he just starts stabbing her in the back. However, she didn't even scream or anything because it didn't get through her coat.
On David's third pass on the wide boulevard, he saw a woman leave the supermarket for the comparative darkness of the street. David could not see her features, but suddenly he heard the demon voice croaking, "Get her."
She ends up getting stabbed, he claims, once in the eye. He hit her in the eye, and then she ran off. But there's no reports of who she was or whatever. So this may even be part of his... This may not even have happened. But the second stabbing we do know happened. Her name was Michelle Foreman. She was 15 years old. She was walking in the middle of a bridge, the throughway bridge. She had just came from her high school.
Michelle first felt a stabbing pain in her head. The knife then struck her upper body 3 times. Blood spurted from her head. "I never heard anyone scream like that," David said. "The way she screamed constantly. I kept stabbing and nothing would happen. I just ran off."
Yeah, so here's the thing about David Berkowitz. As you're going to see with all the other victims, he actually prefers it if the Lover's Lane car, they're making out, if they're under a street light, which is unusual because, you'd be able to see his face. But he likes to actually just see what's happening. It's like a movie for him.
He wants likes to know that they're dead.
Well, not even that. It's like he's really interesting. And
he's like a voyeur.
It's like he's interested in how it plays out like a movie. And he's always talking like, why didn't she fall down quicker when I shot her in the head or stuff like that? Like he's critiquing it as he was an active viewer instead of the one shooting kind of thing.
Not like interested in what they're doing in the car, interested in the effect of his kill on the people.
Yeah. So Michelle, this victim, she survives. She noticed that he ran away with a sluggish gait, which we know he does have one. She stumbles towards the closest building, rings the buzzer. She was hospitalized for 7 days, 6 stab wounds to her face and body. Okay, she suffered a collapsed lung but lived.
God.
Okay, so let's get on to the last fatality that we're going to talk about tonight, and then we'll cut it off. All right, this who you're looking at now is Donna Loria. She is the first murder, the actual one. We went to one of the last murders he did to start this episode, and the reason I like to do that is because you see he shot him in the head, directly point blank range, and it was perfect aim and everything else. Now we're actually going to the first actual shooting victim, and you can see how he's progressing, what he's doing differently and everything else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Donna Loria. She lives at 2860 Burr Avenue. Dark hair, serious looking, pretty girl. She, as a child, she was born deaf. Surgery and doctors actually helped her, with however they did it, cured her of her deafness. And that's possibly, most likely, why she wanted to become a medical technician when she grew up, which is what she was doing. She was actually working for the Empire State Ambulance Service as a medical technician. She was about to become a paramedic, but that's a lot of schooling to be a paramedic. So she was in the process of taking her last exam for paramedics certification. So we're going to hit the Google Earth right quick. On Google Earth, for you YouTube guys, this is actually right in front of her apartment. Donna Loria, she lives at 2860 Burr Avenue in the Bronx. Now, this is the first one. This is before Son of Sam, before the 44 killer. This barely made the paper, even though it was tragic, but it was, just a crime, probably someone on drugs or something. So if you see this little black Honda, this is where her car was parked.
Okay.
Now, this is late at night, early morning. She is in the car with her bestie, and her name is Jody Valenti, Jodi.
Okay.
And this is Jody, the blonde, and the brunette.
Okay.
Now, real quick, tell me about the first victim, what hair color she was.
Brunette.
Right. This is one of the things that when the Son of Sam comes out and everyone's scared, people stop going places. However, especially this one right here where the blonde actually survives, Jody survives, she's the only one that survives this incident, it gives this false perception that blondes are safe because all the other murders are brunettes, right? Okay. So the very last murders that we're going to talk about, the women, they thought they were safe because they were blonde. And in fact, when the women thought this, that it was only the brunettes that he was interested in, the beauty parlors made a killing because all these women would go, these brunettes, and get their hair dyed blonde. Now, this was the panic that was going on. This really happened. Like, everyone was blonde now.
Wow.
Because of this, because they thought and it wasn't the case at all.
Interesting.
It was not the case. It's just like he's only into killing women. This is not the case.
He wasn't really looking for a specific type. He was just looking for
he was
situations.
He was an opportunist kind of killer, yeah. But it just so happened that most of the victims were brunette, and then everyone went blonde, and then guess what? He kills a blonde, and everyone's like, shit, well, I guess that doesn't matter, type of thing. July 29th, 1976, they're sitting in front of the apartment building right there. Donna was the passenger, okay? So David Berkowitz kills by going to the passenger window, not the driver's side. So Donna was the passenger. It is 1:10 a.m., July 29th. Donna Loria was the passenger. This was down Burr Avenue right in front of her apartment. She was talking to her friend Jody, and what happened was 2 days earlier, Donna's uncle died. So she went to the funeral parlor earlier this night, viewed the body, whatever. Then she wanted to blow off some steam, so she calls her best friend Jody, Now, this is before Son of Sam, before the panic, so the discos were filled up. But after, all these murders, they're empty. So they go to the disco, they go to Manhattan or whatever, they come back. Her parents were actually out as well, Donna's parents, and they went to dinner or whatever. They actually get home around the same time, about 1 a.m. in the morning. Okay, 12:30, 1 a.m., Donna pulls up, and then the parents pull up right behind her. The dad comes over to Donna's car. Hey, sweetie, you coming up to bed? Actually, he was going to go up, get the dog. Then they were going to walk the dog together.
Got it.
At 1 a.m, father and daughter. So,
right.
So Donna's like, I'm just talking to my friend Jody. Why don't you go get the pup and we'll walk him, stuff like that. 5 minutes. He goes upstairs. That's when David Berkowitz comes up. Donna's on the passenger side, and she notices the guy come up, and then she looks at Jody and says, quote, "Who is this guy? What does he want?" He's literally looking in the window. It's the first time he's shooting in the window, and the windows are up. He's looking in. He doesn't know what he's doing. So they're like, who is this guy, creep, looking in the window?
Yeah, that's weird.
He pulls out the pistol, the 44. This is the first time he's going to fire it, and he shoots, and he unloads the whole thing, and it's sloppy. Half the bullets don't even hit the targets. This is his first one. And he doesn't know how powerful it is, and he just shoots as fast as he can. All 5 bullets. There's only 5. So, bow, 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 as fast as he can. Donna was the only one killed. She was hit in the right side of the neck. The blood was spurting out, and she died of the blood loss from being hit in the neck. So, in the later murders, where does he hit? In the head, in the temple, right? Mm-hmm. So, that's where he's hitting. She died within minutes. Jody was also hit. She was a driver, but she was hit in the thigh. She starts screaming, and her head hits the horn, which scares David Berkowitz off. He runs back to his car, which was a yellowish Ford Galaxy, which I'll show you a picture of. David Berkowitz says the following, quote, "I was heading west on Burr Avenue, and I knew I had to get them. Those were my orders. I never saw them until moments before the shooting," end quote. He also, after the shooting, went to sleep, quote, "fulfilled," end quote, that night. Okay. Because there's silence in his head, right? The demons aren't clamoring so much. If you want to read this, I clipped out some of the majority of the paper, but this is what I want you to read from this from the Daily News about the crime when she died. But and you see it's not Son of Sam 44 caliber killer. They don't even
know who it is.
Not only that, but they didn't even know the caliber of the round because it's all destroyed and everything. They knew it was a big slug, but they thought it was a 45.
Okay.
So if you want to read this is what the paper said about the killing.
Chatting in a car, girl met by death. While the father was upstairs in the Lauria's 4th floor apartment, the gunman sneaked up on the girls and shot them. Miss Valenti got out of the car, went around to the other side, opened the door, and Miss Lauria's body slumped onto the pavement. At this moment, the victim's father came out of the apartment house with the dog and burst into tears when he saw his daughter's body on the ground. Miss Valenti, a nurse who lives a few blocks away, told detectives that she did not recognize the killer. She said that he was a white man in his late 30s and wore a blue striped shirt.
So that was it. And there was no connection of 44 killer or anything until more murders, which we're going to talk about. I do want to go into depth and all the killings. So I'm going to hope you guys are patient with me.
No, I'm excited to cover this story.
Yeah, next week, not in this episode, but now, if you want to read this.
I never thought I killed her. I couldn't believe it. I just fired the gun, at the car and the windshield. You just felt very good after you did it. It just happens to be satisfying to get the source of the blood. I felt that Sam was relieved. I came through. Okay, so what do you guys think about everything we talked about? And what do you think his psychology is? Because we're going to go into a lot of it. He was living in hell, and we're going to talk about that in the next episode. But let me preface that by saying, so is Sam Satan? Not Satan. No, this is not Satan. They're just satanic forces. In his mind. In his mind, yeah. So he's schizophrenic? Well, we'll talk about that later. But he claims, this is crazy, the first murder, Donna Lauria. David Berkowitz claims that the demons that demanded her to be killed, shot by him in the neck,
the reason he did that is because they had promised him that Donna Loria, after she was dead, would be his as a bride. Okay, just stay with me here.
All right.
Right after she died, his actual belief, he's not just saying this to get out of being guilty. His actual real hallucinating belief in his world, in his mind, was that immediately after the death, she would be wed to him. Okay? Promised by the demons. He says, quote, Sam lied to me. From now on, he would refer to her as in the letters, in multiple letters, as what? Remember this is important?
Princess?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the pretty princess.
His quote, my little princess, end quote. He always talks about her. So go back to the letter. What did the letter say about the princess, and now she's sleeping or let's go look at it real quick.
Remember.
Quote, I miss my pretty princess most of all. She's resting in Our Lady's house, but I'll see her soon. I am the monster Beelzebub, the chubby behemoth, end quote. So that's out there, is it not?
Yeah.
Very.
And it's a very sad story, especially the dad comes down 5 minutes later with the dog.
I can't even imagine.
But yeah, we're going to get into more of this. Do you guys like this or not? Should I keep going with the story? And because there's the psychosis. I mean, we're talking about demon dogs. We're talking about a bunch of different demons that he makes up. I'm just going to kind of run real quick as a teaser. For instance, he says one of his neighbors that he's going to move into 35 Pine Street in Yonkers, where he's going to carry out his killings. Go back to his apartment. He says one of his neighbors, they were really nice and quiet. However, they lied. This is a direct quote from him. Quote, they said they were good people and they were lying. I thought they were members of the human race. They weren't.
What?
Suddenly they began showing up with demons. They began to howl and cry. Okay, it's pretty fucking deep. Really deep. It's really out there, some of the shit. And what was going on during this time, remember? Satanic panic was going on this time.
Yeah.
I mean, you had that church, I can't remember what it was called, that one, or not church, it was a daycare. The daycare that was it was huge. The kids, the media and this, and I know I talked about it with that one guy, but this daycare during the Satanic Panic, the media was reporting that they were sacrificing goats at the daycare. They didn't even think to check if there were any goat carcasses anywhere. They said they sacrificed a kid. Who kid? What kid? No one claimed that their kid's missing. Stuff like this. So I don't know. Just, I'm sorry. I know I'm going all over the place with this, but we're going to talk about the quote Holiday Inn for Demons, end quote, and we're going to talk about a lot of the demon dogs that continue to hound him. Anyway, I hope you guys like that. I know it was long. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you guys don't mind if I expand on the story until next week. And sorry about last night and that we're not drinking now. We just got drunk and
needed a break.
Stupid. Yeah. But anyway, that's Talk Murder Me. We've been doing this for 3 years, 231 episodes. I don't know why we still do this, actually. What the fuck?
Because it's fun. Can't wait to learn more. I'm very intrigued by the attic thing, and
Yeah,
very
we're gonna go all into that and talk about all the other murders too that he does. So anyway, that is the first 2 parts of David Berkowitz, Son of Sam. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is John, and until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.